Hey, we really need to flip District 1.
Yeah, we do.
But who has the ideas and ability to connect with people from Worcester County to Baltimore County?
I am so glad you asked. Welcome to Dishing with Dan, the podcast for Dan Schwartz for Congress. Each program in Dishing with Dan will be an opportunity to chat about what he will do for District 1 in Congress, why his plans are better for you than Andy Harris's. Dan's campaign is about connecting with folks throughout the district to make sure that his policy platform represents us, which is why he can win this important election. For District 1 listeners, we want to hear from you. You can email your questions to Dan at info@schwartzforcongress.com. And if you send your message as a voice recording, we can include it directly in the podcast. So let's start dishing with Dan. Dan Schwartz, welcome to your podcast.
Thank you so much, Wanda. This is going to be a lot of fun.
What should people know about you and why are you running for Congress?
Well, thanks for asking. I better have a good answer asking people to unseat an 8-term incumbent and vote for me instead. And really, I would describe myself as a regular guy. I have a 3-year-old. I have a 6-year-old. I have a wonderful wife, my 3-year-old Eddie, a 6-year-old Henry. My wife's name is Megan. I'm from the Eastern Shore. And I really believe we need regular people to be involved in government, people with regular problems. You know, I've got a lot of bills. None of them are getting any cheaper. And I want the same things that my neighbors want. I want to be able to save for vacations, but first, before vacations, I want to be able to save for emergencies. And things are so expensive right now. You know, I talk to a lot of parents, and nobody is feeling really confident in their ability to save for those important things. We need representation that is responsive to people's needs, representation that shows up for people. Right now, the representative that we have is extremely out of touch. He's served for 8 terms. He's running for his 9th term in Congress. And in all of that time that he's had to do good things for the people of our district, he's done very little. He's brought back almost no investment when he's had opportunities to invest in this district, whether it's communities that need disaster relief funds or communities that need new rural hospitals. He's brought nothing. We also need representatives that are accountable and that show up and listen to the people that vote for them, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. Representatives represent everyone in their districts. And as I've been on the campaign trail now for 11 months, I've learned that you have to show up. And we've been showing up every single day in all 11 counties that make up this district. And I really think that people are ready to have a representative that shows up.
I hear that people are just hungry to be able to talk with their representatives. Has Andy Harris ever had a town hall?
In the past 6 years, he's only held 2 events that are open to all of his constituents. He occasionally holds these telephone town halls with very short notice. They're really depressing. If you tune in, you get to hear your congressman talking down to his constituents, talking down to women, talking down to scientists for a good 20 or 30 minutes, and then click, it's over. This guy, during the government shutdown, for example, held multiple fundraisers throughout our district, but he failed to show up and hold even one open meeting with his constituents. And he hasn't done so in several years now. I think that's ridiculous, in part because we're a commuter district. We're only 90 minutes from the United States Capitol to most places in this district. And what that means is that you can commute into Washington to do your job as a legislator, and then you can come back home and be with your family. You can have a beer with your neighbors and your friends. You can meet with your constituents.
Right.
I really think that's an expectation. That should not be the exception. And it's one reason why I've pledged that we will hold monthly town halls across this district if elected to Congress. And on the campaign trail, I've been showing up multiple times a week in all 11 counties, and I'm going to continue to do that every day between now and November.
Jumping into your policy platform, the first thing people see when they go to your website is a photo of you and the words, "Taking on Corruption, Protecting Maryland Families." I want to start there because we're living in a time where so much of our public life feels tinged with corruption, and that there are 2 sets of rules, one for elites and one for everyone else. So rich people get tax cuts and everyone else gets higher healthcare premiums. January 6th insurrectionists get pardons from Donald Trump, but the Department of Justice doesn't even investigate ICE agents who kill American citizens. Every day there seems to be a story about someone rich or influential dodging the law, and average Americans coming up short in their wallets, in their health care, education, and opportunities they have to reach their goals in life. Dan, help us connect the dots. How could you make a difference as a member of Congress? What can you do to give people confidence that the rules and laws apply to everyone equally?
Thank you for that question. You really did hit the nail on the head. We are truly living in a two-tiered society right now where if you are connected to the president or you're a member of his family, you're one of his rich business associates, the world is going to work in your favor. But if you're just a regular American citizen, if you're a citizen of the 1st Congressional District, the state of Maryland, or anywhere in this great country that we have, you are just seen as a dollar sign to this administration. They're taking every step that they can to make the American people more vulnerable. In my district, where the median household income is around the average, around $90,000 for a family, no one here is getting ahead with that median income facing this administration's economic policies, where we have tax cuts that gave permanent benefits to billionaires while just cutting the knees out from your average people, either offering them nothing or increasing their taxes. On top of that, you have the tariffs, which we know have adding to the average family's costs in the tune of somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000 just this year. And then you also have major cuts to key social services, Medicaid, which 1 in 4 people rely on in the 1st Congressional District, half of whom are children. These 3 things combined are going to cause many middle-class families in this district to fall into poverty. Mm-hmm. And that is outrageous. It seems that the incentives have just been flipped on their head, where government is supposed to help people. It's supposed to be there to provide services. And a lot of people aren't aware that those services are working for you until they're gone. The scientists that we have doing critical research to cure cancers that their children have. I met someone in the district the other day, PhD scientist who spent his entire career studying these rare diseases at NIH, doing really important research, and then he himself got a rare disease. Thankfully, he's doing okay right now because he received a very specific type of bone marrow transplant from his son. But he explained that procedure that he got was only available because of the type of research that he and his team were doing. There are real life and death consequences like that of the sorts of decisions that this administration is engaging in to fire the people who are working behind the scenes to solve these critical issues that you might not know is a really important thing until you or your family needs that sort of help.
And the House of Representatives in particular, they hold the purse strings, correct? They make the laws and pass the budgets. Feels like Andy Harris just rubber stamps whatever this administration wants without any questions. It makes one wonder, how many billionaires live in District 1? Who is he representing?
Yeah. And to answer your question, we don't have any billionaires in District 1, which really encapsulates the point that he's not working for the interests of the people here in District 1. He's focused on the billionaires wherever they are in this country. He's focused on the president and his friends and family making as much money as they can. He's focused on these tax cuts for billionaires at the expense of the regular people here in his district. And I want to see a congressman who's willing to speak truth to power. When you chair the powerful subcommittee that appropriates funds for USDA, which controls programs like SNAP, and this is Congressman Harris's position after 8 terms in Congress, you should be one of the congressmen going to Mike Johnson, for example, when the government was shut down, and saying, let's keep the focus on these healthcare subsidies, but let's also make sure that kids get food in their bellies. Instead, he let the SNAP program lapse in funding, which has never happened before. And when the president sent $20 billion and then another $20 billion to Argentinian farmers at the expense of soybean farmers here in this district, some of whom are my neighbors in Royal Oak, he did not speak up for them. There's so many examples of our current representatives and other members of Congress just kowtowing to the president, believing that they work for the president instead of knowing that they work for the people that elected them. And I really think that their time is done. And we're seeing all over the country that people want a more representative government, and they want candidates, they want politicians that are going to show up and actually listen instead of just work for the special interests and for the president.
Speaking on that, how can we help people have confidence in their government again? People want change. They want to feel represented. But a lot of people are just tired. A lot of people have seen the corruption that's been going on, especially over the last year, this kind of rapid disintegration of everything that we thought held together our civil society. How can people have faith or confidence that things can be better and that we can elect people who represent us?
Yeah, it's tough right now because every single day there are examples of ways in which we're seeing that some of the worst fears that we had about our government, the worst fears that we had about elites, the worst fears that we had about the corruptions and crime happening behind the scenes is real. We right now we have a government that is protecting child sex traffickers. We have a government that is working with billionaire criminals to facilitate drug trafficking, drug money laundering, and people need to be confident because as soon as we give up hope, we've lost this fight. I'm confident that we can affect real change if we work together, if we work hard, if we show up in tough places and have conversations with people who maybe their only previous interaction with a politician or, say, Representative Harris was a very transactional one. We need to actually be willing to dive into the issues and the tough conversations with our neighbors. And we have to, when we flip the house, really do something about the corruption that we're seeing right now. And just to zero in on the corruption, this is without a doubt the most corrupt executive branch that we have ever seen. Look at Richard Nixon, who resigned in disgrace. It was because he, spied on his political rivals, on one or a few occasions. This administration has thrown the Constitution out the window. They are openly selling pardons, working with criminals and to make as much cryptocurrency money as they can for them and their families. And they are working to protect a child sex trafficking ring. These are things that only a few years ago would be completely disqualifiers from serving in government. But this administration has twisted what is acceptable, and they've turned congressional hearings on their head. And it's a result of the fact that they're controlling the levers of all three arms of our government. Until we flip the House, we're going to be constantly disappointing people in terms of the opposition's ability to hold these folks accountable. But when we do flip the House, we are going to make sure that we take every step to hold all of these officials accountable for the ways in which they have been using their positions to make money or protect criminals. And when we flip the House, we regain subpoena power. We regain the ability to determine what hearings are held. And these guys better be preserving their receipts. And I doubt they are, but we're going to do the work necessary to hold them accountable. And I just want to give one example of some of the work that me and my team were doing to hold crooks accountable before this administration came in with a sledgehammer to that sort of work. In my 15-year career on Capitol Hill, I spent all of that time working for the organization, the Conference of State Bank Supervisors, which represented all 50 of our state banking agencies in Washington. So we helped the state banking regulators, state government employees whose jobs it are to keep our financial institutions from failing and to protect consumers. We were their voice in Washington when it came to working with Congress or working with the president or with Treasury. And something that a lot of people don't know about state financial regulators is they're both the primary supervisors of banks, but also non-bank industries, non-bank financial services industries, all of them. We're talking debt collection, money transmission, payday lending, even pawn shops in many states, and also the crypto industry, because that falls under state money transmission law. So for the last 5 years I was there, My job was to help states coordinate enforcement actions, particularly in the payment space. So I really zeroed in on money transmission, which is kind of the wild, wild west in the financial regulatory landscape. My team, when it became apparent that CZ, the CEO of the largest crypto exchange in the world, that his company had very lax compliance or almost no compliance when it came to anti-money laundering and what's referred to as KYC, know your customer sorts of requirements, and that they were essentially facilitating terrorist financing for groups like Hamas and ISIS, financing for drug cartels in Mexico, child sex trafficking rings, gambling rings, you name it. Whatever illegal activities were possible, they were being facilitated through this guy's application, which was the largest crypto exchange in the world. My team got him to give up all of his state money transmission licenses and agree to never do business again in the United States. And then what happened? He went to prison, first of all, because the federal government also had a case against him, a rare example of a billionaire being taken to task. But then the president comes in with a full and complete pardon so that the two of them can make a bunch of crypto money together and he can be welcomed back into our financial system. And now his company is actually the leading custodian, the largest holder of the president's crypto coin. The corruption is being played out right in front of our faces in a way that is so transparent that we'll have what we need to hold these guys accountable, and we're going to do so.
Listening, I was thinking, you couldn't even make this up 3 years ago. It wouldn't even pass as a Hollywood movie because it would be thought of as too outrageous. And it's in our country. It's our administration. It's happening before our eyes. Flip the house. That's the first step. I'm really, really so happy that you're running for Congress. And with you, we have a chance to do exactly that. Thank you so much for being here today. This is the first of the Dishing with Dan podcast for Dan Schwartz for Congress.
Thank you so much, Wanda. I'm really excited about this and look forward to keeping the conversation going.
That's our program for today. Thank you for tuning in. If you have a question or comment that you'd like us to include in a program, send us your audio file or email to info@schwartzforcongress.com. And please subscribe and share Dishing with Dan with your friends and family. This will help Dan connect with more and more people throughout District 1 and strengthen his campaign. It is possible to beat Andy Harris. Dan Schwartz is the candidate who can do that. We all need to work together to make it happen. This is Wanda Boker, producer and host, signing off for Dishing with Dan.